Faceless with In Becoming a Ghost. It's hard to believe that 5 years have passed ever since Autotheism just absolutely destroyed us and gave us this perception that the Faceless was an unstoppable machine. And in the past 5 years, we've got no follow-up, mostly because the unstoppable machine has been pretty stoppable, mostly by a lot of personnel shakeups and lineup changes and this and that. So, coming here to In Becoming a Ghost in 2017, a lot of questions exist. Is this the same band that was able to, really destroy us with Autotheism? The answer, of course, is no, but we mean musically, not just with the people that's behind it. Is the songwriting still there? Do they still have that same charm, the same thing that made us into believers back in 2012? Or was it simply just like a man curse, where it was a one-time thing, and really wasn't all that good in retrospect? Well, let's take a listen and see what In Becoming the Ghost is able to really offer us. Well, first thing that we're going to see is that this is a 10-track and 42-minute long affair, and that shortened runtime may actually cause a conniption out of some people, thinking that it's too short. But I caution you to actually quell that anger, as this could be an album that pulls no punches and is just very wham bam, thank you sir or ma'am, all depending on your designation, and really doesn't overstay that welcome. So let's not pass judgment just based off of runtime. That's really silly. I mean, what if you were an agoraphobic Nosebleed fan and an album reached, more than 10 minutes? Would you get pissed off then? Probably not. And the first track, In Becoming the Ghost, is our introduction that gets us right into Digging the Grave. And this is a track that shows that songwriting prowess that was on Autotheism still does exist in fragments and frames. It's something that shows up every so often, and the tone is definitely the same, so automatically you're going to feel a little bit of a sigh of relief. Thank God the Faceless didn't magically turn into a samba band or something like that. I think we knew that wasn't going to take place. But there are some new tricks of the trade that actually occur, and the production here is a little bit more dirty sounding in places, and sometimes they try to use a little bit of that studio magic, a little bit of that grit and grime in order to implement some interesting little ideas in order to make the production, or the composition rather, feel a little bit more whole, or that it's following a little bit more of an industrial sequence, and you can see that in the track's just cup of mess. But Digging the Grave also features a flute solo, which is fantastic near the end point of this track, the second half of it. The problem is that this actually overshadows the 3 minutes that you got before it, that was supposed to be seen as a bit of a setup for all of this. The flute solo and really the way in which that instrumental is built around it makes you very quickly forget about what got you there and instead focus very heavily on that part right there. And that's not really good whenever your original composition with your lyricism and everything is getting less attention than a guest spot from a flautist that is also swirling around your instrumentals. But it still could be said that it means that the Faceless still has great instrumental ability, and they still can command your attention without words. So that's probably a good thing. Who knows? Let's see what the rest of the record delivers for us. Blackstar, for example, is a fantastic track, and really this is something that is benefited by the fact that there's now 2 vocalists in the camp, Michael Keane and another gent that is brand new for this record, and alongside a guest vocalist, which now makes 3, there are certain spots on this disc that now have a tri-vocal attack that has all the range in the world, from guttural growls to Michael Keane's very trademark and easily recognizable clean vocals to Danny Filth screeching nearly at some points. Yes, I am not kidding. At some points in time, we have a screech in this album that sounds like maybe Danny just decided to show up for a session and just go, "Ah!" just for fun, then walks out the door, picks up a cab, goes to the bar, and, starts drinking wine. Whatever. But Blackstar's a really cool track. I like the fact that this has some of those channelings of Autotheism, which really that parody of yourself can sometimes be a really big hindrance. But whenever you deliver a song that has a little bit of that parody of yourself in it with the same intensity that you were able to do beforehand, with that trademark idea, with that classic Autotheism tone, for example, in this case, then it really still feels very whole and true and very cool. It doesn't feel like you're just ripping yourself off. Same can be true with The Spiraling Void, really. It's another song that really shows that with blinding evidence. Now, strangely enough, I Am and the Terminal Breath are the last 2 original tracks on here. I did skip over a couple of Mess, but mentioned a little bit of something about that earlier. So really, whenever you take a look at this, whenever you take away the introduction, whenever you take away the reprise of Ghost, whenever you take away Instrumental Illness, which is original, don't get me wrong, however, it's just serving as a bridge from I Am to the Terminal Breath, and whenever you talk about the cover, there's only 6 tracks really on this album. That's kind of odd and a little bit strange, and maybe not that good of a thing. I Am is a good track, but there's not much to really comment about this. It's got some strength to it, it's got some panache, it doesn't pull any punches, but at the same time, it doesn't leave you with memory whenever you leave the album later on. Not like the Terminal Breath does, but the funny thing is that even though the reprise of Ghost and Instrumental Illness are so, individual, or, they actually do a good thing in the 3 minutes that they're given, it really kind of leaves you begging for that the end and have the Terminal Breath just start. Maybe have the reprise of Ghost be the true final cutoff of this album. Although I think what they were going for at the end of the Terminal Breath was that, the breath ended. But I like the Terminal Breath also, just alongside of the Spiraling Void and Blackstar, but with this track, I love it because of the instrumental, or the industrial tone of the production on here, that twinge. It actually makes the whole entire song feel extremely original. Speaking of original, though, Shake the Disease. This cover is interesting to say the least. Of course, Shake the Disease was originally done by Depeche Mode, and was a new song that was off of the singles 81 to 85 album, and it became a fan favorite sort of overnight. And this is a track that is really, it has its power in the fact that there's minimalism going on in the background. It's not something that needs a lot of musical cacophony in order to make it work. Enter in the Faceless, which actually provides a musical cacophony for this track, and it leaves you with very puzzling results. It leaves you looking at it very quizzically, like, what in the world just happened? And you know that they have the power and the opportunity to show the same solemnity to the original as perhaps the original had. Considering the last minute and a half of this cover is fantastic. They stripped down some of that cacophony to control the chaos a little bit. If they had done that throughout the entirety of this track, it may have gone over a little bit better, but it kind of leaves you kind of scratching your head a little bit. There's a lot of things about this album that are done really well, such as not falling victim to parody of yourself all the time. That being said, there is some parody that exists. It does feel like they went to the well of Autotheism quite a bit, which some may say is just a signature sound thing, not a blatant sort of copy-paste. This isn't recycling here, and to a certain extent I would agree with you, but at the same time it does have a similar feel. But they were really trying to follow up the impossible to follow up, as Autotheism was just a fantastic disc whose opening trilogy alone has wowed audiences and still is requested in streams and chats and things of that variety. So it's definitely a hard thing to do, following up what could be considered your masterpiece. It does its best, and it does add some new tricks to the trade. So In Becoming a Ghost isn't fully just a transitional album. But I feel like this is almost the lineup testing its waters to search for sharks and see if there's plenty of fish to be caught. Instead of this being sort of the natural progression or the natural order of things, it instead feels like the first shot, and if this lineup is able to stay together for the next album, which is certainly no guarantee, as they already lost somebody after the recording of it, that they would maybe have a stronger outcome next time. But this is still by no means a bad album. It's 21 out of 30, in fact, and if you actually have listened to this album but don't yet own it physically, you can actually pick it up. There's a link down in the description box below to Amazon and an influencer page for coverkillernation that also features some other products that I really, really like, other music and other accessories, things like that. So go ahead and follow that link and pick it up for yourself or for that special person in your life for the holiday season. And yeah, it does help the channel out a little bit, so it would help me. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it if you decide to do that. And happy holidays. I also would love to know what your feelings are about In Becoming a Ghost. Let me know in the comments below. I'm CoverKillerNation, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.